Week 1 is in the books. What do you need to know? That's why you come to AMA on Tuesday nights. Adam and myself, we got you covered, from JK Dobbins tearing his Achilles to the devastating news for your contenders with Aaron Rodgers also tearing his Achilles. Everything's coming at you. All your questions will be answered starting right.
Triumph in the trap.
This is federal dollars.
Do you believe in miracles?
Hey, I play chess, but only in 4D. I'm by myself, but they think I'm 4D. When they see me online, they think they know me. Go ahead, like and subscribe, you gotta show me. I applied pressure and they tried to reject it. Clearly ain't see I was a diamond, so they didn't accept it. Told me I was a failure, so I said F it. Might even start my own school and teach them a lesson. Yeah, I'ma call it South Harmon. Fly down south and get the South poppin'. One day I'ma give you a walkthrough and introduce you to this walk tool. I know you lost, that's just dynasty talk. Cause you can't start no franchise without no dynasty chart. I took a break from the game, they throw my dynasty stop. Till I came back like Wembanyama, I feel like Coach Pop. I can't say that I'm the GOAT, cause you ain't gonna agree. But if I own my own farm, I can make the GOAT. Me, the ladies love the beard and they used to love the goatee. That's when I was a lamb, burning music on CDs. I wasn't born in 88, December 87, that was 16 days away. Might fly to Dallas, why not? I just got paid today. When I land this dirt statue, I came to fade away. Check the timeline for the stories and the play-by-play. My life a Patreon link, you gotta pay to play. I work 16 hours, boy, that's an 8 and 8. X Factor like Dez Bryant, my boy 88. Why dream light when you living like a heavyweight? This ain't a 1 week thing, we grind like every day. They know my destination, Devi, like I hang with Ray. If they ain't know my name, I bet they know my name today. Treat this mic like an ATM, let's make a trade today. Drop this on Fizzle Friday, cause that's my favorite day. And I'm gonna do it my way, cause that's my favorite way. They tried to put me on the shelf like I'm layaway. Told me it ain't no way, so I made a way. Welcome to South Harmon, I'm glad you here today. Welcome to South Harmon, I'm glad you here today. Welcome to South Harmon, I'm glad you here today. Hit that Patreon link if you here to stay, Treat this mic like an ATM, let's make a trade today.
Tuesday night, AMA. Woo!
Let's get
Adam
it.
and I are a little bit late, and that's my fault because you got to check it out Saturday. But we had this little thing we're going to refer to as Eyebrowgate. Eyebrowgate did happen. It was a thing. Sorry we're late, folks, but we're here. Let's go. Tuesday night, AMA.
That's all we can give you. The rest you got to tune in for it. Trust me, Saturday morning premiere, you want to be there for it.
Fucking Eyebrowgate, bro.
Yeah.
Eyebrowgate.
I can't wait for the people to see it. What's going on? Ryan Edwards, Trip Crown is here. Trip Crown has all kinds of things to say. Appreciate you being here, guys. We're glad you're here today. Mr. B, what a week. We have, let's see, Koopa's favorite. I love the hot intro, like the, Mike letting us know beforehand. I know exactly what he's doing. I thought he was going to say here the not intro, like the intro before the intro. Wyatt, this is actually a question I'm going to get to, but appreciate you being here for now. Mr. Wonderful, a lot of people here, man. It's already started. That's why I got to remind myself. Make sure I get the questions we need to have. Castle Black was good 40 fam. So let me just say this, Mike. Week 1's in the books, and that's always comes fast. Like you think it doesn't.
Yes.
All right. It feels like it takes forever, but now week 1's already here. Like we're on the border of having week 2 start Thursday.
Yeah.
The reason I say it feels like it comes fast is because what comes fast at you is, hey, you were relying on JK. Hey, you were relying on Aaron Rodgers. Hey, you're one of these teams that was relying on Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, and week 1 came and went, and they didn't play. And Cooper Kupp is not going to play till at least week 5, and there's a lot of speculation that that's not even going to happen. So we're talking just right there. Just think for a second, everybody. That's 5 names in a week. And there's other people I can name, by the way. But that's 5 names in a week that their season's over to start with, or like did not play week 1, and we don't really know. Like especially with Kelce and Cooper Kupp, where there's, gosh, these guys are getting old. What's going to happen? What does it look like when they have injuries? Then you got guys affected by this too. Garrett Wilson, right? Like Garrett Wilson for me was a guy I was really excited about. And right now, Mike, as much as you love Zach Wilson, I know that you, myself, and Garrett Wilson don't love Zach Wilson for him. And a lot of other managers here feel the same. So it's crazy, man. I'm excited for the season to be here, but every year, like week 1 seems to kind of smack some people in the face, especially when you're in a bunch of leagues. So curious your thoughts on it, man.
The scoring, not so much, because we're used to what's the nice way of putting this? We're used to shitters, like sometimes having big week 1s, and we overreact to it. And we're used to stud players not having big week 1s, and then we panic a little too much. I will say the part that hits home is the damn injuries, man. And you remember how violent of a game this is, right? And how people's careers can just go like that, like how people's seasons just evaporate. And it's on some of the most minor stuff, right? The Aaron Rodgers injury last night. When he went down and got sacked, did anybody think he tore his Achilles and like Aaron Rodgers done for the year?
People are even when he went on the cart, people are kind of like, well, like what kind of small injury is this? Like, is he gonna come back today, or like are we missing the rest of the night? Right? Like that's kind of where I think people's heads were at. Then you find out, well, he's gonna miss the night for sure. They ruled him out pretty quickly, which when you find out why, it's because those are almost confirmed when they look at it and see what it's in Achilles.
We're not at Destination Dev anymore, but also shout out the dope ass people that are over there. Like Jeff Mueller, right? Like called it. Like I remember being in the Discord. I think he just goes out with like a sprained ankle, or Rodgers kind of being a Sally. Like, come on, Rodgers.
Right.
Like, come on, you got sacked. You're mad at your lineman. Who gives a shit? Get your ass back in there. And I seen it in the Discord, and somebody goes, Jeff's saying that he think he might have tore his Achilles. And this is maybe a couple minutes after the fact, and I'm like, what? You fucking kidding me? An Achilles? Like, I didn't see it. I saw the replay a billion times. I never would have guessed Achilles on that, and turns out that's what it is. Now his seasons is completely done, and Adam, I don't know if his career is completely over either. I mean, we're talking about a 40-year-old quarterback. I don't think he wants to go out like that, and I think he'll probably come back. But I'm not going to be shocked either, too, if he's just like, I'm good. I just can't do this shit no more.
Well, we talk about things, Mike, and we're kind of – we're not even talking during a game or whatever, but we're just a lot of knock on wood, not trying to jinx stuff, all that, right? I don't know if you saw this, but Barstool, I forget the guy's name now, was sitting down before getting ready to watch Monday Night Football and was talking about it was Clemmer. So basically saying how before the game started, the last time there was this much excitement and all that, he was real nervous and built up. And he said the last time was 1999 when the team's coming off the AFC title, and it's like week 1, man, Vinny Testaverde tears his Achilles. And the other guy's like, don't put that in the air. Don't you put that in the air. No. And that literally happened right as the game started. And that's the irony of that's wild. But
so let me just let me go back
to the point of the age, though, Mike. I think this is where Aaron Rodgers is one of those, and I saw Scott put a bunch of polls on Twitter. This is one of those where people were really basically saying, all right, Rodgers is good enough of a talent to kind of go against the grain. His age, forego it for the fact that he could be a difference maker, possibly at a relatively cheap cost of Superflex. This is an asset that goes close to zero now, man. No one wants to hold this for a year. No one even knows what this is going to be like. He was the guy that was threatening retiring 2 years ago. I don't think he actually wants to. But now the problem is what's he going to be when he comes back? That's where it's totally different.
Even then, I don't think the Achilles, a quarterback of his age coming back from the Achilles, I'm not saying he can't. I think he probably can. And I'm not too worried about, if he actually gets back on the field. It's not a running back, okay, which has been a death sentence for running backs pretty much almost universally. So Like I think he might come back. I would say like if I'm not competing this year, Adam, especially in like best ball teams, lineup teams, like these kind of things, like I'll throw a fourth if somebody wants to panic on him. I'm not going to flat out cut him until I know, right? Like this is kind of like the Andrew Luck, Tom Brady thing where it's like, just in case, just in case, because instantly if he comes back and he's starting week 1 next year, or week 2, week 3, whatever the hell it is, if he's actually starting for a team next year, he's worth a hell of a lot more than a 4th round pick. Like you'll get a second out of it easily. So I think I would acquire it in that case. And force don't really mean shit. So that's where I'm at with that. Back to my previous point though, Adam, like the funny thing about week 1 where you say like it comes up fast and we have all these overreactions or underreactions or this panic or whatever. Adam, I'm going to list off some players here, and I just want you to know who had spike weeks in week 1 last year. Mm-hmm. Carson Wentz was QB3. Let that sink in. Carson Wentz was QB3.
For those that didn't maybe catch that's last year. He did not play this year.
Yeah, he's not on a team this year. Cordero Patterson, RB5. DeAndre Swift, RB3. Kareem Hunt, RB4.
Right.
On the week last year. It's nuts.
2 top 5s right there, Mike, that you just named. Different positions, don't currently play for a football team, NFL team.
Wide receivers, more beneficial, but also on the negative side, right? CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 76. DeVonta Smith, 119. Tyler Lockett, 70. T. Higgins, correlation. Week 1 apparently are shit. So next year in 2024, no matter where T. Higgins is, stop fucking starting him in week 1 because he was wide receiver 80.
Now, we have a question about Puka Nacua. So I'm going to ask you before we get to this question. So I have one more thing I wanted to discuss, as you probably saw the thumbnail. Puka Nacua, where is he on this spike list?
Oh, that'd be interesting because he didn't play last year. I'm
sorry. I know we're talking about last year. I'm talking about for this year. Do we know generically where he was? Okay.
But last year, if you want to talk about guys like Puka Nacua, Devin Duvernay was wide receiver 9 on the week.
Curtis was pretty high too, right?
DeAndre Carter was wide receiver 21. DJ Chark 22. Gabe Davis 14. Jahan Dotson 17. Curtis Samuel. Now that you mention him. Wide receiver 10, Adam.
There you go.
Last year. Tight end position, right? Bad week for tight ends. No Kelce, no Andrews, right? Bad week for Hayden Hurst, tight end 2. Hunter Henry, tight end 1. Wolf. Last year, Taysom Hill.
Just remember who told you to start, Hunter Henry. Taysom Hill. There we go.
Taysom Hill, tight end 3. You know what the crazy thing is? I cut the tight end list off at 55 names on the best ball spike week, consistency week sheet. Mm-hmm. Adam, I can't find tight end 2, 4, or 5, meaning that those dudes were outside. Like they finished as a top 5 tight end in week 1.
They finished outside of the top 55 tight ends.
But for the season long, they couldn't even make the fucking list as overall fantasy fans. So,
wild.
That'll pretty much tell you everything that you need to know right there about the tight end position. So,
okay.
Of course, Travis Kelce, though, last year, benefit tight end 1 overall. So,
yeah. Now, Puka Nacua, we can pull up the stats on. I'm really curious, actually, what he finished for the week in like a generic PPR for the week.
Well, I do got it. I can pull up ESPN. So, however they score it, ESPN.
That's good. Just a standard scoring setting.
Yeah, I think it's just PPR. Man, I got to scroll a ways. Oh, okay, never mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Puka Nacua, wide receiver 9.
Right on that Curtis Samuel line. So
yep.
Before we get to the Puka Nacua question, which, by the way, Wyatt, I know you're probably waiting with bated breath. Mike, the thumbnail, we got to at least discuss it. I mean,
hey, listen, I want to give you the time to discuss the thumbnail and the title because this was all you. But talk your shit, King. You're a Browns fan. I see the elf behind you.
That's what I'm saying.
Talk your shit, man.
This team has had, for those that don't know, because actually someone put it in here. Burrow is Trip Crown. By the way, Trip Crown, appreciate the activity, man. Out here interacting with everybody, including us. Says Joe Burrow. Here we go. Joe Burrow always sucks in week 1, although this was his worst ever. I'll challenge you this. Not that this wasn't the worst he's ever played, probably in a game. Go take a look at the splits versus the Cleveland Browns and Joe Burrow.
Last year, Joe Burrow was QB6 on the week, so let's not say he always sucked. Like QB6, pretty damn good finish.
Right. But I mean, what I'm saying, Mike, is go to his overall play versus the Cleveland Browns. I bet you'll be shocked. Yeah, it's really bad. And
listen, I'm gonna out myself a little bit here.
Okay.
I know a lot of shit, Adam. I know a lot of shit. I can't name the defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns. Who is it?
Come on, man. Jim Schwartz.
Jim Schwartz?
Yeah.
Oh, the fucking Eagles legend.
Come on. That's what I'm saying. Of all the things for you not to know about the Browns, I figured that would be the one. No, you're good.
I'm such a piece of shit.
Listen, it's okay. Nobody knows the defensive coordinator for the Browns. Most people don't know anything about the Browns. That's why I put the elf up there. That's AI generated. That's how Jamar Chase feels about our team. That's how Juju Smith-Schuster, your guy, a bunch of great faces. Like, they don't associate our team with winning, and it's a laughingstock matter. But the funny part is, when you talk about Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow, Stefanski has done a lot of questionable things. He had the coach of the year early. Lately has been a lot of hot garbage, personally.
Mm-hmm.
But when you play the Cincinnati Bengals, he has this guy's number. It's like when you're inside the other coach's head the entire time. That's literally how they play the Bengals, aside from the one game last year where Watson's first game back, or one of his first games back versus the Bengals last year. Mike, imagine this, though. Forget the Browns, forget all this. You go out there and you're saying, like, they're a bunch of elves, clowning. I get it.
Yeah.
We are. We're elves. Imagine, like, you go out and you have, I know there's bad weather, less than 100 passing yards. Just understand that this is 2023, everybody. Less than 100 passing yards, Mike, for a quarterback as good as him. Desmond Ridder had over 100 passing yards last week. Like, how many quarterbacks playing a full snap share, well, they kind of quit early, but playing basically the entire time as a starter, have finished under 100 yards. And I bet you want to pull up that list, everybody listening, shockingly, not that many people, I'm going to guess, unless they got hurt. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
If you count that. So, Mike, imagine that too. He also says, I can't believe we lost to a bunch of elves. And they did. I'm kind of curious your thoughts, like, for the Bengals. I'm not putting too much stock into this for their team. T. Higgins, no catches. It was really bad weather for a first week one game. But and Watson, honestly, Mike, I don't know if you saw much of that game. Watson was scary, but the weather was so bad it's hard to put a lot of stock into it. I think better days are ahead for the Cleveland offense, but I'm just curious your thoughts on the game as well. Obviously, couldn't have gone any better for a Browns fan, other than the offense would have looked better.
So I pulled up the two matchups last year for the Joe Burrow versus the Browns, right? Versus Jim Schwartz. Now that I know that I'm never gonna forget till he gets fired. Joe
Don't
Burrow.
put that juju on him or us.
I'm sorry. Last year, Joe Burrow, first matchup, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 5 sacks, a QBR of 20.2. Pretty bad.
Yep.
The second matchup, a little bit better.
Right.
239, 2 touchdowns, a pick, only 1 sack, a QBR of 78. But
that was better for his overall Cleveland games.
Right.
A lot of previous games were bad too. So just something to keep in mind actually is, like, overall, go take a look. I know you don't have to buy much into Cleveland or their defense or Schwartz or any of that, but it's a weird thing. The Browns have had their number. They haven't had a lot of things go right for them, but since Taylor's been there, they've had their number, and it's been in a pretty big way. So
yeah.
Feels good to have that out there, man. I love that kind of shit talk.
The battle of fucking Ohio. Round one goes to Cleveland. Let's go.
And it's one of those where we could beat them once or twice, and it ends up not mattering because they're beating everyone else, and they're going to the AFC title game. And
this is so familiar too, right? Like, you guys have this little bit of a rivalry going on, right? You're in the same state, and you're kind of in the same predicament. But it's with me with Iowa State. Right, like most of the time we beat the shit out of Iowa State. I would say this: we beat the shit out of them in the terms of getting W's, but every game we play is usually a hard-fought contest. And when Iowa State rises up and beats Iowa, I go, "Fuck, I hate losing to these guys," but they always seem to have our number, and it's that kind of rivalry intensity that brings the best out in both teams. Like, Iowa State could have a shitty year, but they beat Iowa, and all of a sudden, hey, we damn near won the Super Bowl. That's kind of how they approach it. So I kind of get that too. Being a Cleveland fan, this is kind of a big deal for you guys. So
for sure,
especially when a wide receiver comes out and tries to
you get added motivation. Like, here's the thing: what I don't get about that is, right, a lot of times you're gonna shit talk versus someone that, like, if they're that to you, if they're the elves, like, why give them any added motivation when Like you don't you don't even view them in the same class, right? So why give them that type of MO? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense.
He did it to a whole team too, which was interesting. Like if you were to call out Denzel Ward, like I think Denzel Ward's trash. He can't hold.
He can't
my
stick
job.
me right. Yeah.
Then it's personal between those two, and you get this like Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans type like rivalry thing going on. You call out the whole team like that and disrespect them. Myles Garrett's now fired up. The third string linebacker who doesn't give a shit, wouldn't do anything all game. He's got a little bit motivation.
I don't know if you caught this, but Zadarius Smith, who wasn't even there last year, right? Like all of a sudden, hey, I took that personally. He came and popped Burrow in the mouth, like first. It was literally like the first drive. So it's a dangerous game to be played with. Anyway, it's one time to gloat against Jamar Chase, so I figured I'd take it.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, let's get into some things. First of all, he did say, Trip Crown says, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't get to watch all the snaps. I thought Deshaun Watson grew into the game. He played better in the second half, to your point, because the first half was pretty abysmal.
What's
I'm
crazy?
not overall worried, but I'm still like a little – he just does not look as in rhythm and as confident as he once did. I'm not saying it can't come, but I'm a little worried still.
What's really crazy to me is as the weather cleared up a little bit, and the ball wasn't as slippery and it wasn't as shitty out, all
True.
of a sudden Deshaun Watson looked a little bit better throwing the football.
And that's my thing is last year there was a lot of throws in the dirt, and it was early in the game with bad weather, but I'm like, one of those balls was a wide open Mark Cooper, and it was like it was a ground ball to him, and I'm like, is this a real thing? Like, anyway.
Amari doesn't say much, and he's not one of the more animated wide receivers in the league. Like he's kind of
pretty soft spoken. Yeah,
he's kind of in that Calvin Johnson role, right? Like that mold of not as a player type, but just that persona where he just knows he's good and he's not going to talk a lot of shit. He's not very vocal.
Pretty nice to have leaders of skill players of him and Chubb who basically don't say nothing.
I watched that one when he fucking dirted it to Amari, and Amari's like looking at him like, bro.
It's kind of like how I was looking at Mike that one trade show. Like, oh, man. I'm trying here, but come on. Let's get into questions, man. Let's not hijack the whole AMA. All right. Wyatt Johnson said he's flipped Puka for 2 seconds today. What are your thoughts?
Smash.
I mean, I'll be honest. The 2 seconds is not that close because it's 2 especially. Now, one of the things I would actually ask you typically is I just do this for everybody. Settings, if you're still here, Wyatt. So is this a lineup league? Is this a best ball league? Those type of things just for context. Mike, let me ask you this. Best ball.
If it's a best ball, 2 seconds, I'll take 2 seconds.
2 seconds is I'm 100%. Let me just make sure this is clear. There's no format in which I'm not taking 2 seconds for Puka today, personally. Now, what I want to get to is if it's a best ball league, let's say it's star 11, 12, 13, would you take a single second for Puka if you think it's from a contending team?
No.
Okay, that's where I'm at. On a best ball team, I'm not going to take that because I think whether Cooper Kupp's coming back or not, I think there's a lot of targets to be had. And in best ball, that means something to me. So
and what Puka did was very impressive. I need to acknowledge that. And I'd rather hold on and find out if Puka Nacua is that dude, like D-Bro says. And if he's that dude, cool.
And now here's where in lineup especially, now in best ball even too, right? When you get to 2 seconds, everyone just take a step back for a second. Think about this logically. Mike, where did you draft Puka? Everybody here, where did you draft Puka in these drafts?
4th round.
Okay. And I've never saw him go in round 3 other than maybe one draft late when there was a little bit of buzz on the name, Typically a 4th round pick. Maybe in some of yours you're saying 3rd. Okay. Fine. But if we use the average of early 4th, late 3rd for sake of argument, immediately right now when you go to a 2nd round pick, you're already saying, like, forget the player, right? That's the whole idea process.
Yep.
I'm already cashing a profit. Like, literally, this is a very short term. I drafted sometime in May or prior, and I'm cashing out in the first week for a 3rd to a 2nd or a 4th to a 2nd. Yep. That's the single bet, right? Now, when it gets to 2, just understand for a second now why this is not just a smash, but to me, man, it would be very, this is what you're saying if you don't take this offer. Instead of cashing out and saying, all right, I reap this reward, you're now betting on long term. This isn't just a short term play thing anymore. When you get to 2 seconds, Mike, it's not just what he does right now in the next 5 weeks in the next season. This is a long term play you're foregoing here with Puka.
Yeah.
And that's where I can't do that.
I'm with you. I'm
Okay.
with you. You just take the profit. Now,
Because
could
you're
it
catching
come
out from
back-
a fourth or a third to 2 seconds. It's too much to
The-
pass.
the only one that I hesitate to say is at the QB position. Sometimes that is where you run into just a little bit of trouble, right? I vividly remember, and this is full transparency, and you know where I was at with Jalen Hurts for the longest time.
Okay, I wasn't going to go there. I know where I was going to go.
But I took Jalen Hurts in the third round of a rookie draft one time.
Did you cash out for 2 seconds?
I cashed out for a single second, and I'm like, well, it's profit, right? It's profit. And look how that turned out.
Okay.
Now,
Now,
let's just say that.
So the quarterback position, though, can we even go more recent?
Yeah.
Let's even go more recent. Because, Mike, I think this is another one that you and I cashed out on, and I know you've been vehemently still fighting it. Like, Brock Purdy was found money.
Off the waivers.
But whether he's actually good, forget all that discussion, right? It's the same principle. At the quarterback position, even there, it's different to take a single pick or whatever, right?
Do we have an example of a skill position guy that taking the profit didn't work out in your favor?
Absolutely. I mean, we can definitely find them. I mean, do you want to talk like recently?
I mean, where it was so detrimental, where you shit on yourself, right? Like the James Robinson or the Elijah Mitchell, those kind of guys will pop up all over the
Eventually,
place.
you get it back.
Right.
Later on. Well, I tell you what. Let's do an exercise before we get to the questions. Let's go through. Let's pull up. I don't think we can use this year's draft as anything. So let's talk about. I would say even start at 2021, 2020, 2019. Let's use like ADP on those because that's where you're going to see it. I think there's probably going to be a few examples, but probably overall not that many. And when they are going to be there, to your point, it's the quarterback. Like how many skill guys later? I'm trying to think of receivers that went later that really cashed out.
Terry McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin was going to be one I mentioned. So was that 2019? When was that?
I think that was 2019.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds right.
Might have been 2018.
18, possibly. Okay.
Yeah. It was the Dwayne Haskins draft, right? Because they paired him with the guy that he played college football with.
Yep. Okay, so Terry McLaurin would have been one. 2019 NFL draft. Yep. My Ohio State Buckeyes, man. You know.
Man, it's so hard to find these dudes. I'm just looking at finishes from last year, like seeing if anybody
But
jumps across
Terry's going to be one of the rare examples. It's like basically you got a
Gabe Davis.
Yeah, I mean, but if you took Mike, what does Gabe Davis go for right now? Though is the difference. True. Right? Like that's what you're comparing it against in this scenario. Like Gabe Davis doesn't even go for 2 seconds. Terry probably doesn't even go for 2 seconds a lot of times. He might though.
Running back position, James Conner there for a while. Ramondre
is one that if you took a single second, you probably don't want like that now. But what'd you lose? A second and a third or something like that, right? He's worth a late first or a couple seconds.
It's so hard at the running back position too because we look at where we were.
It's short windows, right?
But let me throw out Antonio Gibson because he was a third-round pick for most of the time, and then he got damn near, second round, third round.
Well, he got multiple picks. The only thing with him, though, is that look at it now.
Yeah, it's horrible.
The point is with the running backs, like, see, the Puka thing is different because let's talk about Terry McLaurin. And
Dameon Pierce?
Yeah, but, okay. Can I let me make the point because yes, currently. But when you look at a running back, like go 2 years down the line, James Robinson, go 3 years down the line, and you'll have a window in time which they captured some market, and it's very like, here today, gone tomorrow type thing. The wide receiver position, though, if you hit a true gem at the receiver position, a Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, if you go back, I guarantee you was in this mold, right? Like these type guys, those are different because there's insulated value at the receiver position. Especially depending on the format. And now this is where in lineup, especially though, Mike, like the bet of Puka Nacua becomes even more detrimental at this cost for me, I guess, because even if he's good in the NFL, like even if he's hyper targeted, even if like he out produces what we hoped, like spending this capital on a wide receiver in lineup that's not a top 24 type receiver for sure.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make sense. So that's why I wanted to bring up the point of a format and then
The only caveat I will give to all this, like,
oh, by the way, he says
skill
it's a 10-team lineup, dude.
Yeah, that's easy.
Good night, because 10-team even makes it more shallow. So yeah.
The only caveat I'll get, but just to let you know, this is kind of like playing the lottery. Like, this probably ain't happening more times than not. And when we say process over players, like Dynasty Trades in 5, those guys, Sky Connor, our boy Shane, this is what we're talking about. But Adam, think about the top 3 tight ends from last year. Travis Kelce, late round draft pick in your rookie drafts if you were playing Dynasty way back then. George Kittle, yes. I mean, he was a 5th round NFL draft pick, for fuck's sake.
Tight ends, yes.
Mark Andrews, right? He was actually the second tight end they drafted in that class. So he was going late as shit too. But those are the greatest success stories of like all time. That's why I say it's kind of like playing the lottery.
Well, and I think that's actually a good point to the tight end, which I don't really want to get into a huge debate on the tight end or go down this rabbit hole, which we've been down a million times. That's where I think those examples and the way the tight end position works is what makes it very dangerous. Putting too much into a tight end, that's too young. And then also, basically, if you take any one of these, I think one of the most, I put this as one of the shorts that's done really well, one of the most exploitable tactics in Dynasty, Mike, is simply you draft those tight ends in round 3, round 4. So at that point, betting on a wide receiver is typically not going to hit. Maybe you find Puka Nacua, but for every one of him you draft, you're going to get a Raheem Jarrett, all these guys that probably do nothing, clog your roster, and you just cut,
Yeah.
So
I'm with you.
You draft these tight ends, and in lineup leagues, you put them on taxi, but when they actually do hit, right? So you have a couple weeks in a window where people can tell themselves a story about Daniel Bellinger, K-Dot, and all these different guys. That is an immediate sell candidate. And you're hoping anyone that's tight end needy will buy them from you, because typically you're going to see that it's a very short-lasting thing and that they become irrelevant again. The problem is, there are the examples, which everyone chases, of Kittle, all these guys that were 5th round, like, found money, and then they're great. So, all right, Mike. The Harry Snowman says, I'm going to get to a bunch of questions here, but digging the setup, boys. Any advice on taking ASRB before Hill in a best ball draft? He's referring to doing that just before the season kicked off. I'm imagining he was in our league with Cody and Maddie. So,
yeah.
RIP.
Appreciate the compliments on the setup. Really appreciate that. I as much as I love Amon-Ra, I'm never going to take him before Tyreek. Tyreek has kind of been one of those guys I've been pounding the table for a long time, and then you see it in week 1. And I'm not just tooting my fucking horn, because Tyreek, that offense, the connection that he has with Tua, if Tua's healthy, this offense is legitimate. Tyreek, Jalen Waddle. I think when A-Chain comes back, I was talking to my old man the other night. I told you about this, Adam. Like, congratulate him on his win, and he's like the running game, blah blah blah. Like, trust me, when Devon A-Chain comes back, like, you're gonna get another dynamic to this offense that you don't have currently. Like, you got that back that you can throw a screen to, and he can house it as well. And Dad, I'm telling you, man, this guy's probably faster than Tyreek or Waddle. He's an Olympic level sprinter. I don't say that lightly, but A-Chain being back opens up the offense. I don't know how consistent or usable he'll be for fantasy, but this offense is dynamic. I want every bit of Tyreek. I want every bit of Waddle. I want every bit of Tua, and I will take my shots, especially in best ball on A-Chain. So
fair.
Amon-Ra is nice and consistent, but you want to talk about consistency. Tyreek also does that, as well as explosive, right? We talk about the amount of receptions he had last year in this offense. So I think that's just going to continue. I'm all aboard Tyreek over Amon-Ra, even though I really like Amon-Ra. Tyreek over Amon-Ra.
Yeah. By the way, Tyreek Hill said, his goal is 2,000 yards. He got close last year, didn't hit it. I don't know if you guys saw. Well, the pace is about 3,565 yards as of week 1. So,
right. Doing well.
Imagine passing on him in a draft. Sorry, Harry Snowman. Had the shot. Had to give it to you. Appreciate the compliments. All right, let's get into some questions, Mike. So we had the Puka one, and let's get into this one here. Chad Young, 12-team Superflex full PPR. Christian Kirk, 24,301, which I'm guessing that's like a known tanker or your own pick. Mid 24-second for Ridley. Is this fair? Which side do you want? Is this lineup or best ball, Chad?
Oh, I don't want to panic right away on Christian Kirk, but Calvin Ridley, holy shit, man.
There's two different discussions here for me because I kind of agree with you on the first point, but the second point we got to really talk about. That was electric.
This is format dependent because if it's a best ball and not a lineup or a big lineup, if this is a big lineup or a best ball, let me say that I'm going to take Christian Kirk the 301 and the 24 second, and I'll trade away Calvin Ridley. But if this is
it's lineup
start 9, start 10.
How many starters, Chad? Mike wants 11. To take the Christian Kirk side, so you need to give him the context so that if it happens to be in the caveat category, Mike takes Kirk, we can have Fight Club because we just did the trade show and we didn't have one, so we're probably itching for it anyway.
If it is like start 9, start 10, start 11, I'll take Calvin Ridley.
I think I'll take Ridley even here and start 12.
Fuck you.
No, but I'm being serious though. Like if you get past that in a lineup, in start 12, I can still make the case because Ridley coming off that week is going to have an insane market. Someone says I want the Kirk side, by the way. So here we go.
I mean, it's fair.
I'm not saying. By the way, that I can't be wrong for saying I want the other side and start 12. I mean, have you seen my Cam Akers love? You see me be wrong. Don't act like I'm just start 10. Not close. Can I just say start 10? I think we need to acknowledge it's not close.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff, for all the shit I gave you about Calvin Ridley. He looked really, really good, man. Really, really good.
Dude, he looked like he hadn't missed a beat, and his footwork looks elite, man.
I said it on the recap show. The only thing that plays into my mind is I just vividly remember me like shitting on DeVonta Smith and panicking about him last year, doing nothing when the Eagles came out and did nothing but feature A.J. Brown and pretty much ignored DeVonta Smith. So I don't know if that's the case here. Just getting the new toy involved, but damn, he looked good. He looked good. It's hard for me to not do it again.
So I want to talk about this though. I don't think, Mike, I mean, there's getting someone involved, right? And there is, like, not really getting someone involved, just someone out there just going ham. I mean,
yeah.
Calvin Ridley, from the start of this football game, made his impact known, and there was no forcing the ball to his way. Like, this wasn't like they're, trying to get the ball in his hands, craftily bubble screens, little stuff here and there, just manufacture him touches. This was organic, like, hey, hit number 0. Like, we want to get this guy the ball every single time.
His ass just being wide open.
He was open off the footwork, and then when he got it in space, he did stuff. So, like, that's not going away. Now, the one point I want to make about Christian Kirk, I think it's scary. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie. The difference, like last year, Mike, with DeVonta Smith, I pushed back quite a bit, and I said, don't panic. And I was one of the only ones, like, nobody was in the camp of, don't push back. Because people already made the narrative. The narrative already in all summer was DeVonta Smith's going to be, he's to the wolves. He's dead. He's already too small. He's a bad prospect to bet on. He's a senior, all this stuff. Now you got A.J. Brown coming over. Like, they basically showed him his tombstone. This is where you're going, right? And then the 0 catches almost cemented it. But there was a lot of, like, untruthfulness to that, and he proved it over the course of the season. The one difference here is, like, Christian Kirk, I know he's a good prospect as far as, like, betting profile, but not someone that I'm, like, overly bullish on as a prospect. I like the kid. I think he did very well last year, and I think that he still will have a role in this offense. So I'm going to push back on, like, if you think he's just dead, I don't think that's necessarily the case. So I'm not going to sit here and act like Christian Kirk's, here's your tombstone, here's the grave you're going into. But at the same time, what is a little concerning to me was Zay Jones had a decent game, right? Like, Evan Ingram had some stuff. This offense, with a quarterback as good as Lawrence, I want to just make sure that my point's clear. I think Christian Kirk is good enough to earn targets that are going to come wherever Trevor Lawrence puts them. It could have been just one game where he didn't get a lot, but that guy has developed a ton. Trevor Lawrence looks great, right? And I think one of the things we have to acknowledge with a guy that's a great passer like that, and he has all these weapons, if you're not Christian Kirk who's going to always earn the targets, like, he may just be kind of funneled out just naturally in games. But I don't think I'm just, like, hitting the panic button like it's over for Christian Kirk, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That was your way of letting him down real easy. Sorry, Christian.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley, though, in the start 10. Back to the main point.
Yeah,
I'll
Calvin
take
Ridley
that
in the
side.
start 10 is easy.
No
the
question about that.
second to go up from Christian Kirk coming off that week to Calvin Ridley, I'm already forgoing. 301, like, I mean, those are pieces that can buy you spot starts, and in start 10, I'm not as worried about losing those if I get the stud of Calvin Ridley. So,
Yep.
Okay. Banger trade just went down in shit auction 5. Wilson, JSN, Tank for Bourne, Chase, Burks, Kyron Williams. That's Garrett Wilson?
I don't know. Let me pull it up. I'm in shit auction.
We're both
5.
in shit auction 5.
Are you sure? Because you sat out a lot of leagues. Just fucking.
I sat out like 2 leagues, but it's all right. Here we go. I got the trade right here. Garrett Wilson, Tank Dell, JSN 24-second, or Jamar Chase, Treylon Burks, Kendrick Bourne coming off a huge week, and Kyron Williams as well.
Oh, give me Castle Black side on this one. So Castle Black got Kendrick Bourne, which in a best ball, the way he looked week 1. Not that I'm like all aboard.
Well, the thing to note is 91% snaps. Like he's a full-time player too.
He got Jamar Chase, best asset in the entire deal. Absolute unit, stud, even though he's shit on the Elves. You don't think he's going to have these kind of games every single week.
Definitely not.
He doesn't play the Browns 17 games a season. So
lucky for him, he wouldn't want those Elves out there doing that to him.
So the way I would break this down is Garrett Wilson and JSN for Jamar Chase. In a best ball, I'll probably take Garrett Wilson and JSN. Even though the Garrett Wilson thing was Zach Wilson, people are losing their fucking minds, right, and panicking. I'd still favor the 2 for 1. All right, easily.
Okay. This is Chase and Burks versus JSN and Wilson. You'll take the Wilson side, you're saying, right?
You throw Burks into it, I want the Chase and Burks side. No question.
Okay. I was going to say, so this is just Chase versus Wilson
I was just
and
doing
JSN.
Chase versus Wilson and JSN.
Got it, okay.
And then Burks for a second, Tank Dell, I don't give a shit. And then Kyron Williams is free. Kendrick Bourne is free.
Well, I think part of the way this deal was structured, and I mean, Shane, if you're in here, these are 2, Savage team members, guys that are in the league with us. They know they know that we're going to come straight up and tell you no bullshit, right?
You could have DM'd, each of you could have picked one.
I mean, the one thing I'll say is Jamar Chase, right, in a best ball, we talk a lot of times about this is an asset that you can a lot of times get. Like it's worth trading because of the rewards you can reap, right? So to your point, like I'll take Wilson and JSN ahead of Chase. Burks is not someone I'm like extremely bullish on anymore. But if it's Chase and Burks versus those two, I'm with you. I want the Chase side. Like basically, I put it like this: the reason we try to trade Chase a lot of times in best ball is the asset number, right? So it's multiplication of assets is so great, or the overall value just outweighs what Chase individually means in a lineup league, in a best ball league. That's a lot of times the dynamic of why trading Chase is so good. The problem is in a shit league, and this is in something to keep in mind in best ball leagues that are deep, as this becomes more of a thing that people know, mainstream, if you want to call it that, for best ball, where we know that it's important to have enough pieces. Like this is where I don't advise trading Chase if you're not getting that type of a haul. Like that's the reason we advise trading Chase. If you're trading Chase and it feels like it's fair value, I want the Chase side, right? Like that's going to be the way it is unless it's a 4 for 1, 3 for 1 type thing. If you're getting 4 assets, Mike, and if you're contending, you tell me you get Kyron Williams and Kendrick Bourne, to your point, where like those are the pieces a lot of times in the deal, if it's close, just throw me those and I'll make deals happen over time where I just make my team deep. You get that plus the Chase side. Shane, Shane, I love you to death, man. But I got to be transparent. This is not a deal I would have made.
Shane, I'll tell you, why you're.
By the way, he's one of the guys that was bought. You talking about the setup? He just bought. It's coming to his house very soon. The sweet fucking South Harmon neon light. So
I love you to death too, Shane. But since you're in such a giving mood, hit a guy up, man. Hit a brother up. Let's go. You're just gonna give away.
He gave us a few extra bucks towards it because I think it was like high fives. He threw us 6, so I'll make sure that we get you, a drink because that's I think the giving mood here.
Castle Black owes him a drink. That's Castle Black owes him
Castle Black, man.
a dinner.
You know what's funny?
Dinner.
Can I tell you what's funny? Who accepted this deal? Because Castle Black's in the chat, and I don't see Shane. And it feels... Shane accepted it. Okay. Sorry, Shane. Couldn't make it to AMA to even, talk about it either. Love it. All right, so let's see what we got here.
I love it.
All right, Mike, help me find some questions.
We got any?
Yeah, we got plenty. Hold on, what's this about? Puka. Sometimes you need to listen to the coach. Puka has been living in Cooper's back pocket for months. The coaches have been moving him all over from the start. Yeah, well, I mean, okay, so Harry Snowman, let me just say this. The sometimes part needs to be all caps, asterisks around it, because the danger is, there are times, yes. I don't disagree on, sometimes I would say very few times, though, because what you also get, and you have to be very careful of in conjecture offseason, is if you listen to the coaches by and large, like you would have believed that Antonio Gibson was going to get the Christian McCaffrey role, that J.D. McKissick was going to get the Christian McCaffrey role, that
Sky Moore was good at football,
that Laviska Shenault, that Urban Meyer was building the offense around Laviska Shenault. Like, there are tons and tons of very dangerous coach speak things too. Right. It's not, the point's not wrong. It's that you have to, you got to be very good at filtering out bullshit and what you think is, coach speak versus what's real. And that's why I think this statement is not necessarily wrong. It's just that you have to be, man, you got to be diligent about which ones you're listening to, which ones you're not, right?
I've heard that stuff too. Like, teams will tell you exactly what they want to do. Like, teams have told me bullshit for years.
Mike,
as many examples you want to fucking give me that you're right about, listen to the teams. I can give you 50 that are bullshit.
Can I tell you?
J.D. McKissick's the next Christian McCaffrey. I've heard that shit out of fucking Ron Rivera's mouth.
So if you go back to going into the 2021 season, and like this for me is one of the things that's so frustrating for like my love of a single player Cam Akers, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk about coach speak? Before he tore his Achilles in the summer, it was pretty early in the summer, right? There was all kind, because he played so well down the stretch. I mean, he was literally the only thing they had going for them during that playoff run, and they beat Seattle. But there was so much hype on him, and literally you had McVay talking about this guy is special. He's built different. He's a workhorse. He's a 3-down back. Like, that was literally the wording that he used. Okay, now I know he went through an Achilles injury and all that, but understand that since that point, he could not be in Sean McVay's eyes and usage any further from a 3-down back that ever existed on planet Earth. Mike, 35% snaps last week when you're saying this is the year he finally gets to Sean McVay, like all that other stuff's out of there. It's like the Aiyuk doghouse. It just went on longer. It was never true. It was never a true statement. There's no way he ever viewed him as a 3-down back because he doesn't play him on 3rd downs ever. Not to mention that's not even playing him on every single 1st and 2nd down. So, not a bad point. I just think you got to be really careful of which ones you're buying into.
So tough, man. I don't think anybody's got a good formula yet. Like, people point out their wins, but they never point out the losses. Just saying.
I mean, but it's okay to have. It's also like you're gonna miss all the time, right? But you just want to be more often right than wrong.
Speaking, like, I give T-Rock mad props. If you haven't checked it out yet, too, go to southharmonff.com, go to articles. T-Rock is doing some fantastic work writing articles. I thoroughly enjoy them every time they come out. And we got to change that schedule to, say, Tuesdays because he needs all these data points. So let's get that updated. But T-Rock's awesome. But at the same point, I give the man praise, and then he comes with me with fucking Jeff Wilson.
Mike, it's not. By the way, his the T-Rockness is not nearly done.
No,
he's got other questions in here with eggplants on him, all that.
Oh no.
You mean when Jeff Wilson comes back, Mike? Thoughts?
I do not mean when Jeff Wilson's fine for any RB on a 53 or a best ball stash.
T-Rock, here's what I can tell you: if you value the ability to write and put value on our website, which we very much value. I think what you're gathering here and what you should be gathering if you don't, is this isn't coach speak, by the way. If you if your next article is about Jeff Wilson, it's you can consider that your resignation letter to Mike. So
consider it a resignation. I love it.
All right. That's you do what you want with your articles. I'm just Friendly advice.
Hello.
All right. Speaking of which, let's get to another T-Rock question. Since he's hot as it is right now, do you have any shares of Swift to sell to me? Sounds like you guys are panicked on him.
I got plenty to sell to you.
T-Rock, let me ask you this: since you're so bullish, what are you buying for? Like, what is the cost of? What is the offer?
That's the real T-Rock question, because his first initial offer isn't his best offer.
Well, hold on, because I think I saw it somewhere in the chat. But if it isn't there, I want to make sure. T-Rock, you told me, listen, I know like this is Garrett Wilson's year, 2 firsts and a second. Then when I said let's make the deal, you said I don't think I want to do it. How are we talking now? That was when Aaron Rodgers was in town. What are we sending, T-Rock? Don't give me these crying emojis. What are we sending?
Yeah,
Don't come on here with your hypothetical bullshit.
Listen, T-Rock, you're a content creator now. So just so you know, if you say something, you got to stick to it. We're going to hold you to it. No bullshit.
You know what? These AMAs are becoming some of my favorites, Mike. There's comments. But if I missed a question, let me know, because I don't. Oh, here we go. How much fab for Zach Wilson in 12-team Superflex Star 9 PPR?
This would kind of depend on whether you think you can flip Zach Wilson. Because let's be honest, man, I got into a big, long fucking argument in our Discord with our patrons, Savage. Love those guys to death. But Jesus Christ, we were talking about a start 8 with Brock Purdy, and somebody got a first for him. And I said, that's a massive win. Adam, a start 8 Superflex. If you're starting Brock Purdy in a start 8 Superflex, your team's fucked. Like, I don't even care if you think he can be QB 13.
Well, you aren't. I would say this: you're not fucked if you start him, but if you send a first for him, that's the quickest way to be fucked, right? Like that's
perfect.
If you picked him up on your team, you can play him. If that's
so let me say this is Zach
the point
Wilson.
You're making. I know what you're saying, though.
I'll be the biggest Zach Wilson stan there is out there, right? Like I knew this guy was going to get another opportunity.
Just you are, but yeah I'm with you.
I knew he would get another opportunity. I've said as much. I didn't think it was going to come so goddamn soon.
Nobody did.
In a start 9, though, Adam, I don't want to start Zach Wilson in a Superflex spot at all. Now, if he's out there on waivers, like, how much fab would I spend for him? If it's Dynasty, I'm only thinking about, like, is there a dummy out there that would pay me a second for Zach Wilson? And if there's a dummy out there that would pay me a second for Zach Wilson, he's probably, how much is a second-rounder pick if it was sitting out there on waivers and fab? How much is that worth to you? To me, that's worth all my damn budget. Like another second? Yes. I would empty the clip on Zach Wilson if I knew for a fact I could trade him to some dumbass who would give me a second.
I guess to your point, though, Mike, I think you got to talk about it at least in 2 lines. Because, one, I think part of the problem with trading Zach Wilson is now, like, we have to acknowledge the way that the community views him.
Oh, they fucking hate him.
But Mike,
hate him.
I know they do. But that to my point means that now he is more like this running back type thing, where you're like, okay, what is he going to give me in the 1-year window? And everyone's going to say, even if he's the starter, which I can't guarantee he is, it's going to be shit. So, like, I think the reality of you trading him in any format, let alone start 9, is probably not high. Now, let me ask you this, Mike. You have 2 quarterbacks, or you have a third that you think you can play with. Like, are you willing to say Zach Wilson could be your quarterback 3 on a team in a start 9? And if so, now, what kind of fab budget would you roll on him? Because that's probably the lens that's going to happen.
I think a safe bet for me, and you know how I am with like fab. Like I usually like to hang on to it towards the end and be more of that hammer. But when these quarterbacks, and listen, I'm telling you, Zach Wilson's probably starting for the rest of the year for the Jets, barring him being absolutely fucking horrible, which people out there in the Twitter streets will fucking tell you he is horrible. Listen, I don't believe it. I thought he played fairly decent. Other than that interception, I was like, Zach, what the fuck are you doing there? Like, you threw it right to this guy. But even the touchdown pass to Garrett Wilson, while it was off target, at least he gave his playmaker an opportunity to make a play. Some of those dudes will just fucking throw that 5 yards out of bounds, and Garrett Wilson has zero chance to make a play, even if it's in danger. I thought Zach Wilson did a lot of things, and maybe it's the hard knocks and the mentorship from fucking Aaron Rodgers. Like, I thought Zach Wilson really took some steps forward. But, Adam, if he's just my QB3, like that's the best case scenario, I would say maybe like 20 20% of my budget because it's a starting quarterback in Superflex and one that is fairly secure, at least for 2023, as of having a starting job. So you don't really put yourself in that position of panicking. But Adam, I'm telling you though, if I knew for a fact there's some sucker out there who really desperately needs a Zach Wilson, like the Aaron Rodgers owner, if he was starting in that guy's Superflex, I just empty the clip and go, I'll just roll the dice for the rest of the year with my fab budget.
I don't disagree. If you know, or you have a strong like inclination that you have a manager that either has a quarterback get hurt or whatever that you can flip him to, I have zero disagreement with you on that point. Okay, but it's just I just don't think that's a standard typical practice going to be had. If you do think so, there's a quarterback desperate manager, they're sniffing around and they're like they've been scraping the bottom of the barrel. Yes, do what you got to do. Go get them and make it actual, like turn fab into something real, right?
Yeah.
All right. Found some other questions while we're talking Zach Wilson. Start to Javonte Williams, London, or Elijah Moore for this week.
Start sit questions already.
Yeah, man. We get ready. We get down in the muck before waiver hits. We get start sit questions.
Give me Javonte in London. I kind of expect like maybe a little bit of a passing game rebound for Atlanta this week. So Javonte
so
for
better
sure,
than a zero burger.
Yeah. Yeah. Please. I'm going back to the well. Zero burger. Javonte in London would be the two that I would
How'd you feel about Javonte looking? I know you were pretty
He
not into it.
Yeah. Like the fantasy points weren't really there.
No, I know. I'm
but
talking about looking. Yep.
I thought he looked pretty good on the field, and it's kind of that weird thing where Breece Hall looked 10 times better than I thought he was ever going to be off an ACL. So
I've been on record saying like I think Breece Hall is going to surprise people, and
he did.
I also said it might not take place till later in the year, and here you go, week 1. Hey, how about that cut?
Looked good.
That cut on that injury that Breece had, like the knee that was bad, like that was crazy. What's a good pivot for London in the lineup league? Go ahead.
And Javonte wasn't really like babied into the role either.
Not at all. By the way, Eric, this is for you. Samaje Perine. Yikes.
Meh.
Not into
okay. He still looks slow as shit.
Not into it. Who is a good pivot for London in the lineup league? So if you have Drake London, you want to pivot off of him.
You want to get off of him.
You're hoping that I think one of the problems is like even if there's a great market, it's probably come down a touch, right?
That Brandon Aiyuk window has slammed shut, hasn't it? Like that's not an option anymore.
I would say this though, that 1 for 1 I don't think is necessarily off the table, but it's that you never used to have to do that 1 for 1.
This is the one. I think if people still want to hold on to the Drake London thing, which I think he's probably fine. Like I'm not panicking. Adam, can you get Zay Flowers and any kind of plus?
But what is that?
I don't give a shit. A third.
Yes. I'm going to go on record, and you guys tell me what you think. If you have shares, vice versa, I think you could absolutely get Zay in a third.
I'll take Zay.
A second right now might be a little more troublesome
for
somebody.
Tough, but maybe you can get it done.
Yeah.
Start there. See what happens.
I think people have been itching for Drake London buy lows, and they might think this is the best time for it. I'm curious what you guys all think right now of Drake London in a pivot too. Would you go, like, if you had Zay Flowers coming off of that great game where he was hyper targeted? I don't know if you saw that chart, Mike. They have air yard share and basically targets in a line going across. Like,
yeah.
Zay Flowers is all the way to the right on an island of just targets. Like, the air yard share wasn't there. They were just, but he was the first read, essentially. That's what it was, actually, first read versus air yard share. First read every time. So it's good for him to see an offense with Lamar and Monken. Like, hey, I mean, I know Andrews is out, but first read every time, that's pretty big. I would say I would rather have, in like a shallow league, probably still London, because I think the market will dictate at some point that he bounces back, to your point.
Yeah.
But
I just really like what I saw from Zay. And if you talk
so do I.
You listen to the podcast I did with Cody Carpentier yesterday that came out, the South Harmon Spotlight. We got towards that at the end of the show. The beginning of the show is always focused on the creator and their journey and, talking life. But the end, we get some nuggets thrown in there. Big Zay Flowers guy. And I really like what I saw from Zay Flowers. I know the analytics guys are going to throw up fucking ADOT and yada, yada, yada. And I get it. I like analytics too. But the usage and how involved he was, and even like the targets that he got, didn't get. he's running routes downfield. It wasn't just Rondale Moore bullshit, right? It wasn't just behind the line of scrimmage all the time. So
I would say
what I saw from Zay.
By the way, I don't disagree on Zay Flowers. I think he looked great. If you have Zay Flowers shares, I don't think you could have expected anything even. Definitely not as good as that, and definitely not better. So good as you could have hoped for. I would say the reason for me is I think London in a lineup league might carry more weight, but I think Zay Flowers in a plus is a good pivot. I think the reality for you is That's fair. Though, Thad, if you're gonna do this pivot, like I think the problem is going to be like because for you, if you're making a pivot right now, you're basically saying I don't think he's secure enough as an asset on a contender. And if you want to flip him 1-for-1, like if you're talking really pivot like that, if you're not doing a tear down, you're not going to be in the range where you think you need to be. Personally, I feel very strongly about that. Like, who are you pivoting right now for, Mike, 1-for-1, to your point? Like, Brandon Aiyuk, is that even on the table anymore? Maybe.
Could you do Calvin Ridley?
Maybe. But, again, you're going to have to find the scenario, Thad, of a guy like that, right? So it's a guy that can absolutely smash. As you saw, both those guys popped off tremendously week 1, but their age value and their market value is not nearly as secured, where Drake London is this young guy that eventually will pop. So
Michael Pittman?
I think you can get Pittman done for sure, but I just don't know if like that's even a pivot that you want to make if you're Thad 1-for-1, honestly. I think people sometimes are holding. I'm not saying you wouldn't. I'm saying I think people had Drake London in this top 12 dynasty category, and they're not like ready to go to a top 20.
I'm not like super panicked, but I'm open to moving down a few spots in market value to get somebody that I feel more secure about, at least for 2023, because Arthur Smith doesn't really show an inclination, and if he keeps winning games like this, he's not going to show an inclination for passing the football. Like, he's got no reason to. We'll just get Bijan and Tyler Algier heavily involved and maybe take a shot or two to Kyle Pitts. Ta-da. This is our offense.
I don't disagree on the contending side for Drake London and Arthur Smith and all that at all. I'm just meaning that, like, we're on the same page. All right, so let's get into some other questions here, and then we got to probably get Mike out of here because for those of you that don't know, Mike is on a very early schedule this week, and
that's fine.
Well, we'll get some questions. I'm just saying we're not going to be here all night.
I got till 10 at least.
Okay, so all right, we got 20 minutes. There you go. Let's do that. Okay, all right. Oh, here's Mike's favorite question. I'll let you read it.
No.
Nobody on podcast is going to be able to hear that. So, Mike, read it aloud, please, for the group.
Would I buy Gainwell instead of Swift in Dynasty? No, I'm not really buying into Kenny.
If you're on podcast, I feel bad because I really wish you could have just seen the couple different faces that Mike made. And still the one here. Eyebrow Gate's coming back, I think.
Listen, I'm not really into Swift anymore either. I'm just kind of done with this 2020 running back class, to be completely honest. But Gainwell, no, I'm not really buying into this shit either.
Okay,
like,
let me
pass.
ask.
Can I pass on both?
You can do whatever you please, and as you guys, if you don't know, McNutted always does whatever he pleases. He asks can he pass, but he's not asking permission. So get out of here with that question. Let me ask you a question though. AMA, ask me anything. Ask Mike anything. What is the cost? So, what is Gainwell's current market? What does that look like? I know you're not looking to buy him. You've been a staunch proponent against Gainwell and still are based on usage and not producing. But my question to you is, what does it cost currently? Audience, if you want to, everyone in the chat, if you want to let me know what you think his like current market is. Have you seen some trades go down? What does that look like? And then we can have a more actionable discussion because there's no way, Mike, for you and I that we're advocating buying for Swift unless it's like a fourth, right? Like there's just...
Yeah, like I would be nice and say like a third is what I'd buy for, but there's so many other running backs I could get for a third that I'd feel more comfortable with, to be completely honest. Like that's kind of the state we're in.
I think, listen, if you send a third for him, obviously, if somehow, and this is Mike, can we acknowledge this is becoming a massive if he ever gets work in Philly's offense, like maybe there's something there. But Mike, the cost of the opportunity cost, if this is just a name that we're hoping out again for, like, yeah, you lost a third, so okay, whatever, fine. That's what most people are going to think. But Mike, what if I have that third now and I can go package it later with another third or a running back or something, and I can actually buy a guy with a secure workload, a Miles Sanders type or something. Like, It's not worth the third to me. I know that sounds crazy as a Swift lover. Dynasty Alex, I pray that you've covered your ears. You got earplugs somewhere.
Harry Snowman hit it. The answer is neither.
I'm not actually saying you can't pass. I think though, Mike, I want for you to actually say you're going to pass on both. I want to know that you know what the current market really looks like and what
I have no idea.
Like, would you pay a third for Gainwell one for one right now?
No.
Really?
No.
But if you were saying it's an argument for Swift,
Nope.
why not for Gainwell then? Is my question.
Nope. I'm going to hold that third for liquidity, and there's about 1 billion other running backs I can buy that can give me Kenny Gainwell production for a third.
Okay, so what was the argument with Swift, or just the discussion, not even the argument? Like you were saying.
So if you're telling me, gun to my head, I got to pick one of them for a third, who am I buying?
There you go.
DeAndre Swift.
I knew it. He couldn't do it. You see this, and this is how I'm going to tell you guys, ladies and gentlemen. I'm preaching to the choir here, all you guys, because Mike is going to ask, "Can I pass?" and pretend like, "Oh, this is." No, he's not dismissing this question. There is ulterior motives that he's trying to avoid, and I've been around long enough to sniff these motherfuckers out, and I'm finding the answers, and I'm helping you guys know that he's saying at this point. He's making everybody know this. He's saying at this point, and that's okay. You can. That he's taking Swift over Gainwell, which is my point right now. Instead of, if they're the same cost, the answer should be Gainwell based on usage. I totally agree, Mike, that we would much rather see Swift getting all those carries because Gainwell did not look effective. He looked terrible, honestly, in my opinion. I didn't think that he looked very good at all. But this offense, this offensive line, there's probably some games if you just kept playing him or he's in best ball that like he'll make your lineup if he's going to get that type of work, even though he's inefficient. And I'm not the biggest believer in Gainwell. What I can tell you is I've seen enough of Swift not playing to be concerned. Anyway, all right.
The answer is Mac Jones.
There it is. What's the feeling? And Daniel Jones still a target if you can get him cheap. What's a good buy price?
I think he's fine. The only caveat I'll have is there was people pushing this bullshit narrative about Daniel Jones being like top 5 upside. Fuck out of here. Right? It's Daniel Jones with no weapons outside of Darren Waller. Top 5 upside was never fucking in the play. Stop it.
It's the
you
same
were delusional.
Well, it's the same as Barkley's still there, right? And the big thing, I'm telling you, Mike, I just want to make sure everybody knows this is one of the things I was shocked at, and I'm glad they at least gave Barkley whatever the additional compensation was for the year. Mm-hmm. Imagine paying Ban Jones. So because you probably have analytics, you're saying the quarterback position is so much different than the running back position. But the blindest person that watches football, so what I mean that is literally they don't see anything. Barkley is clearly the reason and a big reason why that offense, when it was successful, which wasn't all that secure weekly, he was a massive part of it. Imagine that team that just did that with Barkley out there. Imagine if he's missing this week. Imagine if he's not on the franchise tag. What kind of asinine thing are you thinking about? Possibly going out there without Barkley week 1. You just paid Danny Dimes. To do what? You're going to look like an idiot, man. Imagine that, bro. Honestly, this is insane to me.
Listen, the Cowboys defense is awesome. And I'm okay buying into Daniel Jones, but you're buying into him at, maybe back end QB1 tops. So, and when I say back end, I mean QB11, QB12. To
QB
maybe that
QB
QB
11, right?
14, 15 range. That's
Sure.
where you're buying into him at, and that's where he should have fucking been all season. But some people push this fucking narrative that he's got top 5 upside because he runs a little bit.
I regret writing that article on the newsletter, by the way.
He runs at him, but his passing wasn't very good. He's got no fucking weapons, blah, blah, blah. He's never historically been good, that kind of good. So it is what it is. You're getting how about this? You're getting a discount Justin Fields, and that's all you were getting, right? You're getting a discount, and by discount, I also mean price, and by discount, I also mean fucking production. You were getting a discount Justin Fields because he's not as explosive as Justin Fields. He doesn't bring that element. So
no,
he can run. I get it. Sneaky athletic, if that's what you want to call him. But this top 5 upside, that was a fucking pipe dream, and anybody selling that was ludicrous. They were crazy.
Yeah, I think there was And I think there's still, honestly, as crazy as this might sound, I think there's still back-end quarterback 1, high-end quarterback 2 in play for him for the season. Like, I think.
Yep, that's fine.
To answer the question, if you can get him cheap, like, even last year, I've never believed in Daniel Jones, the player. But let's acknowledge in fantasy, we don't have to care about that once he's paid now, right? There's a secure enough time where – so buying him cheap, Mike, what does that look like? What would you pay for Daniel Jones right now, to answer the question?
I'll give a first easily because he's a quarterback.
We're talking on a non-rebuilder, contender, just buy the first. Yeah, I'm with you.
I think I would consider throwing a second in if I really needed a quarterback, format dependent. But I'd prefer just to send some other piece that's not actually quite worth a second.
A Juwan Johnson or something.
A Kenneth Gainwell.
There you go. A third.
Yeah.
Could you send DeAndre Swift and Daniel Jones?
There you go. I'll send that.
Yeah. All right. Facetiously asked. How much fab in redraft 16 team 1 quarterback Koopa? Don't you do this, all right? You put out the A-Warp. We're proud of you. You've done a great job.
He's talking about Zach Wilson.
I know exactly what he's talking about, and I'm telling you.
Listen,
there's no table talk here, all right?
You're going to have to go over 50% because I'm in that league.
I was going to say, I also know I won't do table talk, but I know that I'm not going to bid what Mike bids, so I'm consider me out, man. I'm out of the discussion.
He's out.
Listen, T-Rock, here's what I'll tell you. Whether we have receipts or not in the DMs, I was asking for that because you wouldn't pay the additional price on top of the 2. So if you want to just do the 2, and here's the other thing. The hypocrisy from you. This guy that wants to write, all these articles, all this elaborate stuff, and then backtrack on things in front of people. I mean, like, we got 47 people. Not that many, but enough for him to say, like, have some respect for yourself. Don't lie to these people. They deserve to be honest. How much fab? If Puka happened to be out there, Mike, how much?
If Puka happened to be out there in Dynasty, Adam, I would say if he's out there, it's probably in a smaller bench. It's probably in a smaller starting lineup. If it's a best ball league, Jesus, spend whatever the fuck you want, right? Like, best ball, different. Smaller lineup league.
Here comes. Look at T-Rock coming here, man.
I might throw like 5-10% at Puka in a smaller lineup league. Best ball or deeper lineup leagues, Adam. You could probably open that up to like 50%. If you're in one of these fucking shit leagues that's roster 35 and for some god-awful reason Puka Nacua is out there, blow your entire fucking budget. I don't give a shit at this point. Like, might as well.
Well, I would tell you, I'm not going to say I'm,
I
I'm not
saw
going to
this
say I'm
dude get
opposite
traded
of you.
for a first today. Like, fucking A.
Thank you. So I'm not going to say I'm opposite of you, but I'm more like, okay, let me just tell you what I think. In lineup, okay, now your point, you're saying like 5 or 10%, because I agree in principle, like keeping him on my team in the long-term bet.
Yeah.
Like, I would almost in lineup spend 50, 40, 30, 60, lock the asset up, because I almost know for a fact that fab is now converted to a draft pick. And in lineup, I have a hard time, other than like quarterbacks that hit the market. Like, I know I'm going to block quarterbacks or like running backs. If I know I can get 60% of my budget, 70% of my budget, I don't think you have to go that high. But my point is, in lineup, I'm securing the bag. Do whatever you got to do to get the bag, because I think you can flip him right now for at least a second to that point of Wyatt. 2 seconds. It's a guaranteed flip on acquiring. Now,
do you remember a couple years ago, Davis Mills, right?
Oh, yeah. You basically put, what was it, like, it was something really high.
Like 75% of my budget or something like that.
People were laughing. Who's laughing
Nobody
now?
bid shit. And then Davis Mills made my lineup like 3 times in a best ball league. So who's laughing? But the point is, Adam, like, I really agree with your fucking point about it. Even in a smaller lineup, like, you probably still get pretty aggressive because you might be able to turn that into a draft pick in a dynasty league.
Somebody almost guaranteed is buying Puka.
Redraft. If it was a redraft, though, like, are you as aggressive?
Well,
like,
he says in dynasty. In redraft.
Yeah. Just throwing
if I in redraft, let's say I had like one of my wide receivers that I drafted early was Garrett Wilson. I'm kind of concerned now. Like, I don't hate if I have 7 or 8 bench spots, like, giving a shot on it.
Okay.
But I do think that you got to be careful of, like, if you blow your whole load and this Puka Nacua thing becomes a 1 week wonder, you're gonna hate that, because in redraft there's a lot of times that waiver wire is really juicy, right?
You remember all those people blowing their fucking wad on Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year?
Yes, I do. But anyway, I think in lineup I'm bidding a ton. I think in best ball I still will. The only caveat I'll make in best ball, Mike, now to your Davis Mills point, if I know there's a starting quarterback that's going to be the starter for the full season, I'm basically in. And that's where Zach Wilson. The problem is they could trade for one, because Robert Salah, if you look at his face when he knew it was official, like that was the face of, I don't really want this kid playing quarterback. But even Zach Wilson, I'll bid on, and if he gives me 3 weeks. Puka Nacua is one of those assets where like I could probably replace receiver. So like I don't want to blow my entire budget on Puka Nacua because I think I can hammer it down later. But I'd say this: be aggressive in both formats. Be aggressive in any format. If you think he's someone that the market is going to want and you can flip, just be aggressive.
Yep, I'm with you.
Right. 12-team Superflex. Trying to check. We got 8 minutes with Mike. 12-team Superflex. Start 11. Burrow owner has Ridley. I think I can get Burrow straight up for T-Law, or should I just hold on to T-Law? I didn't think we'd get the nut cutting time. This is a question that needs to be had.
Joe Burrow.
All right. Can I ask you this seriously? Because I think that, to the thumbnail's point, like this is a matchup that hasn't gone his way overall for his career. Yeah. But if you look at his career, it's a plentiful. He's the highest paid quarterback now. But the reason I want to ask this is, like, realistically, I'm not even saying that Burrow's not the correct answer, because I think probably I would do the same. But what's the difference now? Like, what is the difference in these two assets? Because this is an offer to him. He's getting Burrow straight up, or he says, "I think I can get it." So, if you had T-Law, like, would you attach something light to get this done, or is it close enough to where you're saying it's 1 for 1 or I'm out?
I think I would go with the second, but that's top dollar right there. It ain't gonna be a first.
I'm with you. So, well, I would say this. I would tell you this: in any single format, I don't care lineup, start 5. I want the first. I'm being serious.
Hey, don't give the fucking people the idea, because they're gonna go out and form lineup, start 5.
I don't care what format you make or form or do. Single quarterback, double quarterback, super flex, 3 quarterbacks, a first and T-Law, every format. Try me. I won't join your league, but try me.
I'm not joining any of your lineup.
I'm not joining your lineup start 5, but I'll give you my fucking analysis. All right.
That's fucking great.
No, but I mean seriously. So like, all right, 12-team start 11 here. Would you take a second in T-Law for your Burrow?
I think I might. I know. Approach.
Is it hot takey to say that they're not quite, but close to a tier?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I put them in different tiers, but they're very
neck
close.
and neck, right? Okay, that's where I'm at. Like, if you give me a choice on a draft board, I'm taking Burrow. But the difference in cost for me, like, I'm getting very comfortable with my Trevor Lawrence love. And
full transparency, I got Joe Burrow at QB4 and Trevor Lawrence at 7. So you're talking 2 players in between them.
All right. Let's oh man, they're flowing. They always come in late here. Shane's late to the party. Shane, let me just get him on here.
Coop already hit him. Scroll back 40 minutes. Get your trade review.
Oh shit.
Spoiler alert, not very good.
Here's what I hope that you get the South Harmon neon light before you get to that part.
Listen, I can't really see it like too well. Like I gotta zoom in, but is that a fucking was that Les Grossman from Tropic Thunder?
I think it is. I think it is. I also can't tell.
Tom Cruise as Les Grossman.
That is. That's the more I made it bigger a couple times. That's fantastic.
Listen, I changed the whole trade analysis. Shane Joe wins.
Here, can I do this? Oh.
Yes, that is Les Grossman. Let's fucking go.
Dude, that's fantastic. Can I just keep this right here for you, Mike?
Yeah, just keep it right there. That's fucking badass.
All right, so then let's go. Let's get a couple questions, and then we gotta get the big guy out of here pretty soon. We're pushing, midnight. He's gonna turn into a pumpkin. So
I might.
All right. AMA panel. I love this. God, that's so good. Oh, I should have just left that. Damn, T-Rock, my bad. That was fantastic, though. Who has a better rookie season, Zay Flowers or Olave from last year? Sheesh, man. That's a bold, like, that's asking us to go out on a limb, one way or the other, I feel like. We have so little information, man. We have 1 week of data points when Mark Andrews wasn't playing, right? Like, what was exciting about Zay Flowers? I want to make sure we make this point before I answer this question, because I think this is you know what? That's bait. And Mike, what do we know about Zay Flowers? He was the first read often, and he was hyper targeted with no Mark Andrews, and we don't expect that to be the case. So like, we already have a small sample, and the reason that he was very very good is that, you know, Odell and Bateman clearly are not going to be the target earners. So you're asking me to project off of 1 week where they didn't have their focal like point of their offensive passing game. So it's a very impossible call for me to make. But you tell me what you want to do, Mike.
Hot take. Zay Flowers.
I knew it. I knew that if I did that, and that question's out there, that Mike wouldn't be able to just. Okay. Do you want to give a why, or you just want, like, you know, just Mike drop it?
Olave had a great rookie season. Not gonna deny.
I mean, this is big because Mike was the Olave truther, by the way. So this is big info.
72 receptions, 119 targets, 1,042 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I think Zay can exceed all those numbers. I think he'll be at probably 80 receptions.
I think he can, but
125 targets, give or take, because he's going to have a lot more catchable passes, you know, because of the bubble screens and
I would say
fly sweeps, whatever you want to call them, those little pop passes. 1,000 yards, I think is probably going to be very similar, but I'm just expecting maybe another touchdown or two. So if you want to look at it as a whole, how about that? Hot take, Zay Flowers.
All right, Mike. So, because there are different players, all right, in of that. Actually, the frames are similar, but I think at least the way they're going to manufacture the ball to Zay versus the way Hollywood was used is very different.
Yeah.
However, like, if you're going to look at a guy that, so Mike, in his rookie season, Hollywood played 15 games. I know Lamar's the offense, all this stuff is different, but 71 targets his way. Second year, 100. His last year before departure was 146 targets. He ended up having 91 catches. So, and he had 1,008 yards. So, I mean, like, also Hollywood had a lot more downfield usage, right? Like, they kind of looked to get him deep.
Yeah. Almost exclusively downfield
right.
usage.
It was, which was now by his third season, there was a lot more using him in the middle and short, but they wanted to catch him over the top. I think the one thing about it is just I would be cautious right now because Zay Flower hype is, whether it's real or not, it's here. So I think that there's a very good chance that Zay Flowers has a great season, but I do think, like, Chris Olave didn't necessarily matter in points per game last year, but had a very good season, and everyone's uber excited for him. I think that at the end of the year, if you were making me have a bet on, it would be similar. Like, great stuff, you're going to look at those and say those are successful traits. Like, he checked boxes to mean something down the road. I worry that he's not going to be a player that matters in points per game and that's going to cost like one that does. That's my fear for Zay Flowers. And where I have him, I grabbed him enough that I don't have to worry about going to buy him. If you told me to make a bet one way or the other, I'm going to take Olave because it's safer. There's a lot more information out there. Now, to your point, could he finish higher? Absolutely, man. It's not crazy to say at all. Chris Olave had a very good rookie season, but it's beatable, very much beatable. So
I get you.
I'll bet Olave though if you make me have this question, T-Rock.
Right. You make me have that question. I'm not saying in Dynasty I'm taking.
No, I know you're not.
Okay.
This is more to our writer,
Just so Trip Crown doesn't, chirp at me in fucking 2 weeks.
Well, he will. Come on. Who finishes better for the season? Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison? I think this is a better question.
Zay Flowers.
So let me ask you this. Are you not like really that impressed with the Jordan Addison game one?
I thought he did okay, but like things like target share and that kind of shit really do matter. Vikings threw the ball a lot because Alexander Madison is not very good at running back. All right, let me just say that. And I've been on this train for a while.
You and Cody didn't talk about that, did you? Because he loves him some Madison.
We didn't talk about the fact that Alexander Madison's probably not a great running back.
Yeah,
he's just kind of a dude who, you know, if you're just chasing volume, which you probably should be at the running back position, he's a worthy asset to have.
Sure.
I just don't think he's very explosive. I don't think he does a lot of good things. And, you know, I can see a scenario where, you know, Ty Chandler, Myles Gaskin really start eating in this. If they bring somebody else in because they're competing, you know, Madison may take a little bit of a backseat. They threw the ball a shit ton. And target share, usage, that kind of thing just really didn't favor Jordan Addison in week one. He made a couple of explosive plays, which is nice, but I've also seen, you know, fucking KJ Osborne do the same thing. So, like, I need to see a lot more from the usage standpoint to be on the Addison over Flowers train.
All right. I'll take Addison here, and I'll tell you the reason why. If you told me this is Zay Flowers' workload when Andrews is around, I don't think we're having any. There's not even a close debate, in my opinion, just because even if they're closer to the line of scrimmage, it's too much work. To me, though, because here's my problem, Mike, and when I look at these two. So Zay Flowers earns 10 targets. He catches 9 of them. And they did a good job getting the ball. And honestly, when he got the ball, he looked very explosive. This is not a knock on Zay at all. But if we assume, like, to me, I'm going to assume, you don't have to, that Andrews, when he comes back, is the 1A, right? So if you told me that this 10 goes down to 7 or 6 targets, I think that's still very good for Zay Flowers. And I think that's probably a realistic outcome. Like, 3 of those targets leave him, go to Andrews, and more of them will depart from other places. Addison got 6. Now, I know you're saying that there's more targets to go around possibly in the future. I think Addison, though, the one thing about him is because he's playing on the other side of Jefferson, there's going to be a lot of these plays where he can hit a home run, kind of like Ridley did when Julio was there in Atlanta. It's just the way he's used and the way he kind of plays reminds me a lot of that. And that's the reason I think I'm taking Jordan Addison, is that I think there's upside there. Not that Flowers doesn't have upside, but I don't know what the upside exists of when Andrews comes back. So I think it's close. I mean, I think I love what I saw from Zay, but I'll still take Jordan Addison by a hair here.
I mean, it's still a 14% target share if you're being rosy. So I was kind of like,
no, I get you.
Fine.
I get you. It wasn't like he came out and just blew it up, but like, go look.
Right.
Can you give me this target shares of Jefferson his first 4 weeks or 5 weeks?
No, he was fucking horrible the first couple weeks.
Right. So
but the thing is, Jefferson wasn't playing with another Jefferson.
No.
Jefferson wasn't playing with a Hawkinson. He wasn't playing with.
Isn't that more detrimental when you're not getting snaps when there's no one in front of you?
Yeah. But
that's my point.
Yeah.
But this is not to make an argument. Like I would love to punch Mike if I could, but this is not to say Zay Flowers stinks. Like I'd love to fight with him. That's not the problem. It's that I do like Zay too. All right. Let's get one more and we'll go. One more. You good with?
Yeah. Let's do this one.
I'll give 2 more because this is gonna make him too angry. He'll go to bed and he won't sleep.
Mari Cooper. Next question.
I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, if there's concern on Amari Cooper, I understand, but I think you should really take a look at the game. Like, sometimes you got to be very careful about just looking at analytics, right? The weather was bad. I mean, the first pass that I saw thrown in his way hit the dirt, and he looked very upset. There's better days ahead for Cooper. Rashad White, to me, in a game where they actually won, Mike, I'm concerned, personally.
Against a bad Vikings defense.
I am concerned for Rashad White, personally. So,
yep.
I don't think that's very close.
He didn't look very good.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Amari Cooper.
How soon is it too soon? How soon is too soon to go all in and trade your first to compete?
Depends on the deal. Context is everything.
Okay, yeah. So, Dr. B. Harris, there's 2 things to this. One, I'll send my first anytime, any year, if I'm grabbing elite difference makers at receiver, quarterback, and maybe even tight end, right? Andrews or Kelce. Outside of that, though, that's where this question becomes, like, if you're not getting those, right? Then we have a discussion on what the player is, ultimately, too, like, what your team is and what the format is. So, in a lineup league, let's say it's a lineup start 9 or 10. Let's just, because I think that's a lens where a lot of people play. Lineup start 9 or 10, Mike. Let's say your team's pretty good. It's top 4. Not the best, not the second best, though. Like, it's very good. It's very much in the mix. And you're going to trade your first, and you're going to get a Zay Flowers. You're going to get a Calvin Ridley even. Like, are you doing that if your team isn't necessarily 1 deep and 2, like, a high-end asset? Like, you're not the best team or second best team in the league. Would you do it?
No. I'm holding it as long as I can.
Which is where, to answer the question, because I think that's kind of where the question's being framed from. I think that's the idea. I'm not making a trade like that until we're probably at least like 7 weeks in or something, where like I know, one, I've hit a lot of the you can also see in your league, you'll see other people get hit with the injury bug, and you really haven't, right? So I'm definitely in the mix. I'm probably now, I know, in the mix of top 2 or 3, or if I'm not. And the context there and trading it then versus now is, okay, even if your pick is, let's say, 100% value right now, and relative to that, let's say in week 7, it's 95 or 90% value. Like, the certainty I have that my team's a playoff contender and in the playoffs means so much more than trading it right now for a move where, look at this week, man, JK Dobbins, Aaron Rodgers, all these guys get hurt. You do that right now, and you're kind of like gonna make the playoffs, but not necessarily the best team. You get hit with 1 or 2 more injuries on top of that. Now that's an early first. Those are the type of moves in Dynasty you really struggle to recover from. So my personal answer is, like, I wouldn't do it in the first 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season unless my team is loaded.
Right. Or, like one of those best ball moves. Deep.
Best ball would be different. Correct. Yep.
I'm not saying like trade a first for, a single running back who's borderline worth a first. I'm saying, like, in a best ball, I could make a case if you got like 3 assets back that are, second pluses, if somebody wanted to do that.
I'm with you. Now
you got 3 Puka Nacuas, 4 Puka Nacuas.
Now let me. Here's the question too, for non-elite assets that are that extra guy or that one piece away type player. Can I answer? I'm going to answer this question because I think this is I had a feeling this is where it was going. This is where best ball and lineup are monumentally different. Best ball, if I can get multiple pieces, I'm in on a first. If you're built correctly. Like, if you're built poorly, don't do it even for that. Mm-mm. But if you're built correctly, I can do it for 3 pieces, which are not even close to a first in value if you just ask 1 for 1. If you're in a lineup league, though, Mike, and let's say it's a fringe guy, the extra guy or 1 piece away, like for example, Evans. That's how you destroy your team in lineup, honestly. Like, we've made those moves. We Kamara's, Akers, Gibsons, we bet on those and we've screwed it up. So I can tell you from personal detriment, do not do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. That avatar is freaking fantastic, man. I think that's all we got, buddy. This was fun. Actually, real quick. So a first for Javonte right now is a no-no.
Nope.
Definitely not.
Perfect example. No, thank you.
This is literally what we were just talking about with like Gibson and Akers. One of these guys that had a great profile you were strongly in on last year. Torres, ACL and other ligaments. Listen, don't do this. Don't do this because he looked good. I'm not saying he won't return to somewhat form, but your first is so much more upside than Javonte does, so don't do that type of a trade. If you're going to do that type of a trade, it needs to come right before the deadline, personally, for me. I'm holding out until the very end is when I'm going to make those type of trades.
With you.
All right, y'all.
Man, good one. Great one, man. We finished with Les Grossman.
We did. We got that up there. Here, let's go put this center screen. We got, Mike stayed an extra 10. That's big news. He gets up at 4, by the way, and he was a late Monday Night Football. So this is a grind it out type of day, and he killed it. Gotcha. So we love everybody here, man.
You just put that Les Grossman right over my face. I'll stay still for you.
All right, buddy.
Boom.
For you, I couldn't be more happy to cover Mike's face. We love you guys. We will see you back here, same time, same place next week, Tuesday for the AMA. Make sure you're checking out the schedule, the content schedule put together this week. We're out of this thing. Peace.
See ya.